So if you are, staring down the barrel of your class 12 exams right now, you are probably picturing a silent hall, just sweating over a paper, trying to remember literally everything you've read for an entire year.
Right, the whole year of studying just crashing down on you at once.
Exactly. But there is actually a massive kind of hidden back door to secure almost a third of your final grade before you even step foot in that room. Today's deep dive is looking at an article by Professor Dr. Espelagi.
Yeah, he's a veteran science educator. He has over 25 years of experience, so he really knows how the system works from the inside out.
Definitely. And our mission today for all the high schoolers and parents listening is to basically reframe those physics and chemistry practicals. We want to stop treating them like a last-minute chore and see them as a totally stress-free way to lock in 30% of your grade.
Because, the math here is usually heavily misunderstood by everyone. The board splits your grade into 70 marks for theory and 30 for practicals.
Right, the 70-30 split.
Yeah. And students tend to treat that 30% like an afterthought, which, sets up this really devastating heartbreak scenario. Like, imagine studying all year, you absolutely crush the theory, and you get a brilliant 65 out of 70.
That is a great score.
It is. But if you ignored your practicals and just scraped by with a low score there, your overall chemistry grade drops to an 82%. You basically ran a marathon and then just stopped like 5 feet from the finish line.
Oh, wow. Yeah. It's essentially like having a take-home open book quiz that's worth 30% of your grade and then you just forget to hand it in.
Exactly. And the board intentionally breaks that 30% down into distinct microtasks. So take chemistry, for example. You earn 8 points specifically for volumetric analysis, where you carefully measure liquids to find unknown concentrations.
Okay, right.
And then another 8 points for salt analysis, identifying chemical components, plus points for your project and your record file. There's no surprise question paper here and absolutely no negative marking.
So it's basically engineered to reward consistency and planning rather than just, a sudden stroke of genius during a timed test.
Right. It is entirely in your control.
Okay, but let's be real for a second. If I'm a student just drowning in physics formulas and organic chemistry reactions, wouldn't it just be a better return on my time to memorize the experiment steps the night before?
Well, cramming steps is actually a massive trap.
Mm-hmm.
And that comes down to how the VIVA works, the verbal exam component.
Ooh, Viva. Right.
Yeah. Examiners do not want to hear a robotic list of what you did. They are probing for why you did it. They will ask why you use sodium hydroxide in a specific titration or why a particular salt produces a certain flame color.
Meaning if you only memorized like step A, then step B, you're going to completely freeze on the very first follow-up question.
Exactly. And that freezes where your marks just vanish.
Yeah.
But understanding the underlying chemistry turns the Viva from this terrifying interrogation into a really simple, calm conversation about science.
A conversation that I assume starts before you even open your mouth, right? First impressions and all that.
100%. The examiner's first impression of you actually comes from your record file. A neat self-written file with, proper ruler-drawn diagrams acts as a psychological shield.
A psychological shield. I like that.
Yeah. It biases the external examiner in your favor immediately. It visually signals that you are a serious, hardworking student.
And going back to having that calm conversation about the science, you obviously can't fake that if you haven't actually smelled the gas or seen the precipitate color change in the lab.
No, you really can't.
I mean, reading about salt analysis is kind of like trying to learn how to cook a really complex curry by just reading the recipe. You can memorize all the ingredients, but if you don't know what it's supposed to smell like when the spices toast, you are going to burn it.
That is a perfect analogy. You have to physically perform it to recognize those sensory cues in real time.
Oh.
And this physical reality ties directly into your internal marks, too, which are awarded by your school's own teacher.
Because they are the ones watching you over the months.
Right. Submitting a downloaded project at the absolute last minute signals a lack of genuine effort. But picking a topic connected to your syllabus, actually doing the physical work, and writing it in your own words that easily secure those internal marks, you just have to show up and pay attention.
So the difference between a student who consistently shows up for practicals and one who just wings it is usually around 8 marks, which means walking away with a 22 versus a full 30.
And when that is carried across your subjects, that 8-mark deficit drops your total percentage from a 92% to an 88%.
That is a huge drop.
It really is. That gap frequently dictates whether you get into your top choice college or if you have to settle for a backup.
Right. It completely changes your options. So to wrap this up, consider this new angle. If examiner psychology is so heavily swayed by neatness, consistency, and physical preparation in the lab, how might that same halo effect influence how your teachers grade your internal theory papers?
Oh, that is a really good point.
Right. Just think about how much leverage you actually have over your final results purely by how you show up before the exams even begin. Something to think about.